Amy.
Ma? Ma? Please, wake up.
Joanne, can you tell me about yourself?
Yes, so my name is Joanne Thomson and I play Amy McCallum on the show, now Lindsay, also Higgins. She's got three names, lots of men. Um, I am an actor, writer, director, and I am from Glasgow, Scotland, pretty much born and bred here. I write comedy but act in sad things all the time. Someone's got to cast me in a comedy, man, I'm going crazy.
Were you an Outlander fan first, or did you meet the show and then how'd that work?
This was my fourth time auditioning for Outlander. Amy McCallum. So I'd auditioned for three other parts before then. And I'd auditioned before I'd even started it back in like 2014 or maybe even
2013, maybe even.
Yeah, 2013 even. Just after I graduated from drama school. And I didn't get that one. Then I didn't get the next one. I didn't get the next one. So I was like bitter. I was like, I watched some of it to see my friends, but I hadn't like dived into it properly. But then when I got the Amy McCallum, I watched all five seasons and loved it. And I was like, why have I not watched this sooner? And I read book six. And yeah, and I really loved it. It's nice to be a part of something that I genuinely really rate as a show. Like I really do. Scotland's such a small community, and I studied at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, and like a lot of the graduates have, oh, including Sam, like have been in it at some point or other. My mum always hates watching stuff with me, especially Scottish stuff, because I'll be like, "Oh, there's Lauren. Oh, there's Zoe. Oh, there's," and she's like, "Well, you're taking me out of it. Like I don't, I'm not. These people are real people in this, so that like, don't take me out."
Speaking of your audition, you auditioned for, if I can remember correctly, the role of the lady who is trying to fool Frank.
Yeah, yeah. In the later timeline. Yeah, that was my first one. That was the first. Yeah, I think I might actually have been in third year. I might have been in third year. I was down in London, I guess for some agent meetings or something, or for some auditions. Whereas usually I would have auditioned in Scotland, because there's a Scottish casting director and Simon Pereira Hind, and then there's a London-based casting director, Suzanne Smith, and I would have been, I guess, just because I was down there, I went in to meet the London-based casting director, and in that scene she gets choked up against the wall, so she was like, just you choke yourself, and I was like, no worries, grand. So I choked myself like during the scene, and then I stepped back onto her backdrop, and the backdrop fell, and the scaffolding fell, and the giant pole fell on my head. And yeah, and it was really awkward. It was just really awkward. I had to like quietly help her piece it all back together again and then like do it again. And it was just truly the worst edition of my life. I left crying. I was like on the phone to my agent, like crying. I was like, well, I really balls that up. Like that could not have gone any worse. Uh, and I did not get that part, obviously. And then I think they must have just forgotten that that was me because then they asked me in again for Epi the whore, with Bonnet and Brie, I think. Yeah, it was a scene, that scene. So it's a lot of bouncing up against the wall, basically, like one scene. And then the next,
Well, hang on just a second, because Epi, have you watched that?
yes.
Were you like, shoo?
Well, yeah, I was like, I see why I didn't like. I don't have it. I don't have as much. I'm not working with as much for sure. Like, I think often they don't really know what they're looking for until they see until someone comes in,
Yeah.
and I think they kind of always cast the net, quite wide. Yeah, she was just great, but it's like I was gutted about it at that time as well. And then the next one I went for was Morag Mackenzie, Roger's great grand. And I think that's probably where I didn't get that, but it's possible they might have earmarked me because it's quite a similar dynamic between her and Amy McCallum. Like, she's a mother, she's got a small baby, and then there's like this weird vibe going on with her and Roger. So I think it's possible that maybe they were like, oh, not for this, but we'll see. And I had obviously no idea that Amy McCallum was coming or existed. So I'm very glad that I stuck out.
Did you do those other three auditions with Simone in
So
Scotland?
the epi one I did with Suzanne in person, and the Morag Mackenzie, I don't think I think I got a recall, but it was a tape recall. I don't think I met for that, but it was just so that was just on tape. And then for this one, I taped twice, but it was during COVID. So I had put in a tape, and I mean, when I got the audition through, I'd actually stopped acting. I was taking like I'd taken two involuntary years out where I was like not getting jobs. And then I decided to take a voluntary year out where I was like, I actually cannot take the rejection anymore. Like, I need to just stay sane, not know that I'm being told no, not know that I'm like, just not put up for anything basically. So I took a bit of a break, and then I basically said in that break, if anything comes in that I could do standing on my head that they've specifically potentially asked for me, then maybe if it's like a Scottish thing that's like, not a hard sell, then yes. And then that was part of that moment. And I was like, oh great, Outlander, I'm obviously not gonna get this again. Um, but yeah, I taped for it, and then my my friend, my flatmate at the time was from Texas, and she was a huge Outlander fan. And one of the first things she asked me when she moved in was like, have you ever auditioned for Outlander? And I was like, yes, don't talk to me about it. But she helped me do my recall tape. So that was a really nice thing. And yeah, so then I ended up getting that. Yeah. And self-tapes, you've got to watch yourself back. And I'm like, oh God, it's terrible. Like, oh God, like I'm overacting or whatever. And she was like, no, it's really great. Just like send that. So you always go into a bit of a spiral, especially when it's something that you do. You could get sometimes you get things and you're like, I can see why they might not cast me for this. Do you know what I mean? I'm gonna give it a shot, but like when it's something that there's kind of no reason why I shouldn't get this, it's like it feels a lot. There's a lot more riding on it. So
Yeah, and I mean,
it can be
especially
good.
in the situation that you were in, ready to quit. And
Yeah.
by the way, I heard you mention that on your goodbye on
Mhm.
Instagram. Did you know that Sam was on the verge of quitting?
I do.
Kat
Yeah.
Katrina was on the verge of
Yeah.
quitting, and
I know.
Duncan Lacroix was on the verge
Yeah.
of quitting.
It's really,
So,
it's lovely to be on the other side of it. But at the time, I had done a soft quit already, and then I'd auditioned for Vigil, a show here that's on the BBC, and I was up for one of the leads in that, and I was like, I got so far, I was recalled and recalled, and I was like, oh, this is what they talk about. This is the thing that will be like, oh yeah, I was quitting, and then I got this big job, so I was like, this will be my big job, and then I didn't get that, so then I was like, okay, no, I'm actually out. So, yeah, it was like in amidst all of that. So yeah, I'm glad that Outlander. I mean, especially Sam and Cat. Like, my God, what a travesty that would have been if they're so good, and they're both just so lovely and deserving of that.
when you were playing Amy McCallum in season 6,
Hmm.
Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone had not come out yet. So you didn't know what was going to happen to Amy.
Sure, actually, yeah. I think I don't remember a time that I didn't know my fate. That's so funny. I guess that must have been the case. Yeah.
Bees came out November 23rd, 2021. Season 6 wrapped in early June 2021. So you did not know while you were filming season
Yeah, what was going
6
to happen?
what
Yeah.
was going to happen to Amy. Do you remember
Yeah.
when you found out?
Don't remember when I found that out actually. I must have been waiting to see when, the information that come through. And I guess there's like an Outlander wiki page or whatever. So I saw the information there of what happens to her and what her storyline is and come to all the views. And I was like, please let this happen. Yeah, because I wasn't in season 7 because they went to Scotland, so all of that kind of mainly took place in Scotland. I was like, oh, I guess it's not like I guess I'm maybe not coming back. And then, there's a world in which she was never coming back. But like I knew how good the thing that happens to her was. So I was really hoping that that would be the case. But I'd read all of book 6, and it's not that I wish that I hadn't, but I think I can empathize with the book fans. There's just no way to cover the scope that is covered in the books. There's just absolutely no way. And I do actually think they do an incredible job. But yeah, ultimately, there's things in like book 6. I think Amy appears as like a spectre or something to Claire when she's on ether and things like, and I was like, oh, that's great, but like it wasn't it wasn't included. So there was every chance that she might not come back for season 8. So it was yeah, I was very happy that they did.
They didn't even know there was going to be a season 8 until midway through season 7.
Right. You know more than I do. Wow, okay, that makes sense.
And I remember reading that in the book. I was like, what? It just kind of out of the blue, mind-blowing, um, tragic.
Yeah.
But you thought, I want to play that.
Yeah.
Okay. When did you
Um,
get the call about?
um, I think when I first got the call, it was maybe still, I think they were still writing. I think it was an availability check because a lot of people get optioned for seasons and I hadn't been optioned. So uh, I I think they were checking to see whether I might be available, to see whether they might be able to include that storyline. And then, they had asked about the nudity stuff, and I wasn't comfortable with that. So that was a body double that was used in that, which I was very grateful for. And now that they have an intimacy coordinator, there's conversations to be had about that. So like I was able to, say what I was comfortable and what I wasn't comfortable with, and that was taken on board, which obviously is not just on Outlander, but has not always been the case when there's not been an intimacy coordinator. So I'm a huge supporter of that. But yeah, so that was something that I was weighing up as well because I was like, I don't know if I've never been like fully nude or anything, so I didn't want to. I was like, I don't want that to be when I'm dead. Like, it just didn't feel right. So yeah, that was a discussion as well that was
Yeah.
important to me to kind of get right, and obviously to Caitriona to get right, and the intimacy coordinator and the producers to get right. So that was a discussion as well.
We talked about that in my episode discussion group of did they have an intimacy coordinator? Because that's intimate.
Oh, 100%.
Prosthetics and makeup. How
Yeah.
long did you have to be in the makeup chair
And
for that?
well, I actually had to go down to London to get, because I live in Glasgow. I had to go down to London to get the fitting, which took about 3 hours, and that was with Mark Cooley, who's like an Oscar winner. They just did Poor Things, they did Wicked. That day is probably one of my absolute career highlights because they have all of the masks of all of these incredibly famous actors like Emma Stone's there, Tilda Swinton's there, Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo were over in this corner, and I was like, how am I in this room? It was incredible, and I got to see like some sneak peeks of Wicked for Good as well, which wasn't out at that time, and I'm a huge Wicked fan, so I was like, it was great. And I had to get the full regalia of the like the clay thing, the mold that they put on top of you, 3 layers of that. So that took 3 hours. I had to get contacts fitted as well because they were all bloodshot.
Didn't you have like a one of your eyeballs kind of protruding?
So that is CGI.
Oh.
The protruding, which because I was like, oh, they've put my eyeball halfway down my cheek. That was news to me. That wasn't part of it. So I had two bloodshot contacts in, which cover like the full area of your eye. So not just like the blue, like the Iris part like the full white spell, which was wild. It's a very wild feeling. And then yeah, so it took about 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half to
So he
get
designed
started.
all that, and then did he have
Yeah.
to train the Outlander makeup artists how to like put it on? And was there a process of like him going, no, I don't like that. Let's do this. And
So my understanding is that he has a team of people. So it was like the team that were doing it, in London. And then I think at least one member of that team come up to Glasgow for it. So it's like a specific prosthetics team that liaise with the normal makeup department. Um, yeah, because it's a very different thing from the other two, as you could have seen. But yeah, there was a whole bunch of I had like tubes that had blood like kind of not spurting, but just like moving through it in case they wanted that. Um, yeah, it was incredible the work that they did. Like it was phenomenal. I'm like going around getting stuff. My behind the scenes pictures are like really good.
how many days did you have to go through that? How
I
many
think
days
it
did it
was
take to film those scenes?
I think it was just the one. I think it was just the one for that because I'm I don't have that on in the wood. Like obviously it cuts completely.
Right.
Sophie fires the gun and then it cuts to me being carried by Sam Hewen, which I never thought would ha ever happen. But annoyingly, my face was half hanging off. But there we are, remove. And yeah, I think that was it. I think it was mainly. I think the whole day was that scene. I'm pretty
That is
sure.
amazing because the little family saying goodbye.
Oh, yeah.
The acting was amazing. Those children
I know they absolutely nailed it. The little boy, like the younger one that's like just off in the distance, that's
with
just got a
his
little painted lip. I know it was my mum. I watched it with my mum for Mother's Day here in the UK. Like I held off watching it, and she was like floods of tears. And I was like, I'm not actually dead. I'm right here. Like, but she was really upset. Yeah, they did incredible. And Gary Lamont, who plays Evan Lindsay's brilliant. Fun fact, though, which certainly kept our heads above water. Me and Gary were doing a play at the exact same time as us filming this. So we were doing a play called Maggie and Me with the National Theatre of Scotland, in which he plays, well, at two different ages, a queer boy growing up in like Scotland in the 80s. And I play in two different timelines his beard in that, like his pretend girlfriend kind of thing, or like
right.
before he knew who he was. So I was playing like he was my gay best pal, like in this play. And then truly the next day he would be my husband. And then the next day he'd be my gay best pal. And then the next day he was my husband. And then the next day I died. Like it was wild. And then obviously we're going back into because they were very the Outlander team and the National Theatre of Scotland. We both it doesn't rain, it pours. Like you either have nothing or everything. So these two jobs came in at the same time, and I really wanted to do both of them. So they managed to work it into the schedule.
Also, Evan Lindsay wasn't supposed to be your husband. It was supposed to be
Yeah.
Bobby
Bobby Higgins.
Higgins,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
has a really bad problem with hemorrhoids. So I kind of think you won the
I won the lottery. I dread obviously all of that. And I dread about Bobby Higgins, ending up being her husband and stuff. And uh, that was like, when I saw that Bobby wasn't in it, I was like, oh, I guess, if I don't have a husband, I don't have a purpose in this day and age. So I doubt that I'll be back or whatever. So it was really nice. I'm glad they found me happy for sure.
the bear attack itself.
Mhm.
I'm assuming that you were never with an actual bear.
I was never with a bear.
Yeah. And so they had, how did they work that out though? Was the bear CGI or they had that was definitely a real bear in the title cards.
Yeah. Real is my understanding, definitely a real bear in the title cards, CGI bear for the attack. And camera wise, how they did that shot was it was a drone that like I was like here, it came through the woods this way, and then I like turned and then it flew up. That's how it worked. Yeah.
Wow.
It was wild. It was a very difficult thing to shoot because also um Caitriona, it was Caitriona's episode as well. And it was she had a lot of difficult things, but that was definitely the hardest I can imagine because, like many things in film and TV, everything changes last minute quite often. And my understanding is that it was meant to be a cougar, which I think they found a real life cougar, is my understanding. And they were going to shoot that separately with a real live animal, so not CGI. But then something fell through with the cougar. I don't know what fell through with the cougar, but something fell through with the cougar. So then they ended up being like, well, we might as well stick traditionally to what the book says, but we will have to do it as CGI. So bless Katrina, she's obviously like, I think it was only a few days before we shot. So, you plan meticulously, and I'm sure her even more so because, it was our debut. Um, for a cougar, which obviously stalks in a different way, maybe attacks in a different way. Um, so I think they had to kind of cobble the plan together with cougar versus bear and see what they could keep and what they couldn't or whatever. So I that was, I'd imagine, a very difficult thing to go about. But it was amazing having Katrina on set and her directing. Like, truly, it was such an honor to like be on that set with her doing that because oh, that woman can just do everything and look incredible doing it. We had Jan, who is a brilliant director, was on episode 1 and he was kind of being Katrina's outside eye on some things, but she was absolutely like ruling that set in such a empathetic and caring way that kind of only an actor turned director can do. Because even with the bear, it was really difficult for me. Like I was being asked to do things that like didn't make sense or felt really awkward because I remember one thing that I had to do was like scream before I turned around. And I was like, oh, that's really awkward because obviously, like, I don't know what I'm screaming at. But it was nice because Katrina was like, I understand how this must feel. I know this feels a bit awkward, but I'm going to cut around this. And it's just so that we can get that sound there or whatever. It's just so we can see the action of it. If we choose to use this shot, it won't matter. It was just really helpful to kind of have that technically explained and me be like, I trust you. As long as you know that this feels weird, that and you agree it's going to feel weird, then it's great. But like that's sometimes what you don't always get with directors who have never acted. It's this thing of like, I hear what you're saying, but this feels really, there's a reason why this feels really weird in my body. Uh,
Yeah.
so you're trying to figure out, you never want to be awkward about it, but it is like, what about if we change, So sometimes it's a bit of more difficult discussion, but she's just got a shorthand, even with me, who I hadn't worked with her a whole lot. But certainly with like Sophie and Sam, I'm sure they know each other inside out, they know the characters inside out. So yeah, it was amazing I hope she does a lot more directing.
She really focused on the relational piece. She let scenes breathe.
Yeah.
She got everyone to a vulnerable place.
Mhm.
And that really came across. And that's really what the books are about, are the
Yeah.
relationships. So,
And she really gets that. I think what's hard, it's hard um doing TV as a director because you're not the voice of the piece. Do you know what I mean? You're not the author of the piece. You're always a visitor to a set that especially with something like this, you're always a visitor. I was certainly a visitor, so I wouldn't have liked to have come in and it's a difficult relationship to build. And when you're only in for 2, 3, 4 episodes or whatever, that's your little vision and that's your little, you can't replicate Katrina's knowledge of this show with
yeah.
another director. You just can't. So I'm so grateful that they gave her like that opportunity. I think it was definitely a brilliant call, and I'm glad. I don't know if she had to push for it or anything, but like I'm really glad that they did it. I think it's yeah, who better to lead the show really.
Well, I know she asked and it didn't happen right away and she was frustrated. How lucky that you got that for your episode.
I know. And actually, I think that in terms of like the best scenes to film, my instinct was actually that blueberry picking scene. Then I remembered, oh wait, my death scene with all of the prosthetics. Of course, that's the best thing to be like. Sam kicks the door down and I'm like that's obviously the best scene. But in terms of like relationships and things, the blueberry scene was one of my favorites just because it was so great to see Katrina work in that way. And in this sort of female focused friendship group. And I hadn't worked with Izzy before. I'd worked with Caitlin a lot, and I'm quite close to Caitlin. We've gone traveling together and things. But I hadn't worked with Sophie a whole lot. And when in season 6, it was during COVID. So we all were masked, we had to be kept super separate. There was like no socializing really allowed whatsoever. Me and Caitlin invited me out for a little picnic, just me and her, like, in the summer when things cleared up during COVID. But other than that, I didn't really get to hang out with the cast too much. But then, like, after the blueberry picking scene, like that night, like me, Sophie, Izzy, and Caitlin all like went round to Sophie's and had a drink and like had a chat. And it was such a lovely night to just kind of get to know the cast a bit better and, yeah, take the courses off and be like, ah,
Speaking of the Sam scene, like he had to turn sideways with you to get through some door jams. Did you get your head whacked?
no, sounds too good. He would never.
I felt like in the goodbye scene that they kind of kept the little actor who plays Ori maybe back so you wouldn't have to look at the gore.
I think so.
Yeah,
I
because
think so.
a little tiny kid like that would be running to their mom and
Yeah.
but I don't know what kind of cues did they give to get him to like he looked on the verge of tears.
He was just they were just very good actors. Like it's hard with child actors because it's like sometimes they either freeze on set or they don't. And I do think a lot of it had to do with it was a very stressful scene, but like I'm sure like Katrina's just such a calming presence and like a very reassuring presence. And like sometimes on TV sets, because things move so fast and I guess it's a huge budget of a show. So I think directors are often quite pressured and quite, up here quite often. So like I think she will have known that, and like none of that kept him safe. And they speak to like the chaperones and their parents to check how they think their child is going to best respond and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I think it was right to keep him away, probably for the actor and the character.
And also Katrina's a mom.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
don't think she's ever had to deal hopefully she doesn't have to deal with a crime scene as bad as that at any point. But yeah, she gets it.
So which parts were you? You were lying there when the
I
family
was
was saying
actually,
goodbye.
I think in terms of what you see on screen, it was me for absolutely everything apart from that one fully nude reveal and the moment where she's cleaning like by her kind of hip, and you can see that she's naked. I think other than that, everything was me. So everything where you saw my face was me. She did cut up my skirts and things like, yeah,
So when she was washing your neck and
yeah,
your
that was
like
me.
did you guys have to figure out like what's not ticklish or
Not really. I just had to be super still and just not breathe. I don't think I don't think there's an act to it. But I don't think I've played a dead body on anything before, on screen anyway.
and then the woman who played Mrs. Cunningham, Frances
Okay.
Tomelty.
Yes,
Um,
Fran.
so when Frances and Kat were playing Claire and Mrs. Cunningham and doing their scenes around you,
Mhm.
what was that like for you?
It's just bizarre. I guess you do start to think, am I dead? Am I gone? Yeah, I guess you're just providing, it's you're really just a prop at that point. Like it's important for them to be able to feel like they're doing. I'm pretty sure for the majority of that I was on the table. I don't think I was stepped. I think I definitely always would check in with me, and I had little pads and things under me and stuff. So like it was a constant communication. Like I do think they wanted to make sure that I was comfortable or whatever if I needed to step out and things.
So were you playing dead for hours?
I guess I think they would tell me whether, because sometimes it's not on me at all. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes the cameras are above me, so I could breathe. They would communicate with me if I could breathe normally, essentially, and they would communicate if my chest or whatever was on camera or anything that could indicate breathing. Other than that, if I didn't know, I would err on the side of caution because you don't want to ruin the take. You don't want to be that guy that is like, yeah.
And then so when she's stitching the face, was that a prosthetic or was that you?
Well, I believe it was me. Obviously, she's not stitching my actual face, but yeah, I think she was stitching the prosthetic that was on my face. Yeah. So I
So
know.
that would you put on for the entire day, basically, that
Yeah, I
kind of
was
a
the whole
mask.
day. I was in that. Yeah. It might have been 2 days. No, I think it was just the one day. I think it was just one day. So we had a rehearsal day for that. So I was in like plain clothes, normal me, and we went through that whole scene on one of the days, which I think was an important thing to do for sure, because you don't always get that. So yeah, we had a rehearsal of Sam taking me in through the door and then like laying, and because the kids as well needed, there was quite a lot going on. So
I think that it was a very nice fate that you didn't get those other parts because one of the things I asked my episode discussion group to think about for each episode is the big themes.
mm,
And one was prophecies, mine was life can change in an instant. But I really, as I was preparing this, started thinking about how, Amy McCallum is kind of a peripheral character, but her death catalyzed so much.
hmm
It actually became, if you think about who was involved, it's all the major players.
yeah,
And it catalyzed so much. In an instant, Roger stepped back into the role of minister
right, yeah, yeah,
around your death. Aiden is invited into manhood
yeah,
by his father and Jamie to go
hmm
on the bear hunt.
hmm
Evan went from being a bachelor to a husband and a stepdad, and now he's a widower and a single
hmm
dad.
hmm
Claire had yet another encounter with her limits as a physician
right, yeah.
in the past.
Yeah. And people
Um,
do look to her like, but you can do anything. Like you have done this before. And yeah, I mean that's a difficulty in medicine now and then, there is limits to what can be fixed. And
we
yeah.
have a doctor in our discussion group, and she talks about how well they portray that because how frustrating it is when you can't do something, when you
hmm
can't fix
hmm
something. Ian thinks Rachel's miscarried
Yeah.
because she has blood on her skirt.
Yeah.
And so he goes through all of that. Lizzie and Rachel bond.
hmm
Yeah. And Brianna is faced with the harsh reality of the difference between the way children are
Yeah.
treated in modern times and in the past. So
hmm
Amy's death, I mean, this character is much bigger, I think, because of this scene than
Yeah.
any of the others that you auditioned for.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really grateful that didn't work out. And then also because those didn't work out, and because I wasn't busy, I started writing and directing for screen now as well. So that's all to do with, those pivots, like for sure. So I wouldn't be doing that if I was getting constant acting work, I would not have pivoted in any way to that. And I love that. Like I love it the same as acting, I would say, but like I love that it's given me another focus, because sometimes when I get a rejection from an acting job, I'll get a yes from a writing thing, and I'll get a rejection from a writing thing, and I'll get a yes from an acting thing. So it feels like I'm not noticing the no's as much. And I just feel more respected in the industry, I guess, because I'm in this position of like being able to, now audition people or now hire people. And I've always got the writing the projects kind of stay. So, I'll pitch something and then, it might not land with that particular producer or whatever, but I still have the project where that's not the same with acting. Do you know what I mean? Morag Mackenzie's never going to be mine. Epi was never going to be mine, but you do the work for it and then it goes nowhere. Someone else takes it from you. But with the writing, you can keep, it's still your baby. So I'm really grateful that I didn't get those things. Yeah.
Going back to Amy in season 6, how did you prepare for that?
So preparing for Amy in the first place, obviously, I really wanted to watch the whole show. I mean, I know a lot of people don't have the time to or whatever, but I was like, I'm watching it all. And my flatmate at the time, Shania, that I mentioned from Texas, she was already a fan, so she sat on like this sofa and like watched me watch it, and we had like the best. It was like really brought us together as well. We had the best time watching it. I was like standing up, like screaming at the TV, and like I'm like Marta or whatever, like I'm like I was like so into it, and so she was like she was loving that. So I watched obviously all of that and get the tone of the show and the vibe and understand because I knew how much how big a fandom there was for it, and I wanted to read book six, so I read that. I don't think there was any Gaelic in season six, but I started trying to learn it and I did not get very far. Duolingo is not the best to learn a Gaelic, I don't think. I do know how to say the chicken and the iron brew, which is one of the first things that teaches you, which is Shokirk Ayas iron brew. Um, yeah. So, but there was actually Gaelic in season eight. I had a couple of Gaelic lines in the blueberry picking scene, but they cut them. Don't know why. Maybe I didn't
Hmm.
land it well enough. I don't know. But I had a little with the ants. I had a little. I can't remember it
Oh,
now.
like a expletive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did you work with Gillibride, which is
No,
oh,
no. So there's Carol Ann who is the dialect coach. So she took me through that. Like, yeah, I think it was mainly at the start when people were in like the boot camp that they needed the full interpretation of things.
well, I know he still works on the show as a
Yeah.
as or it used to be someone else. Agava Braun did like seasons 1 through
Oh, okay.
4.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I don't think they used anybody for 5. And then I think they brought in, which his name is Gillibrige. I don't
Sure.
have confidence in pronouncing it
Sure.
correctly. But interestingly, I don't know, did you read Bees? Go tell the
No,
bees to them. No.
I didn't read these.
Diana created a character of Gillibride Macmillan
Oh
in
wow.
that book who goes on and he's introduced for the bear hunt for Amy McCallum.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, I wonder if they're gonna give Gilbride a little like cameo.
I
So
didn't know
that
that. That's cool.
favorite scene partner?
Favorite scene partner. Pro I love working with Sam and Cat. Like I especially in season six, like that was the biggest thing that the biggest takeaway really. I think the first scene that I did with them, we were in literal snow, and it was horrible. It was terrible conditions. We had like um, rain, like snow melting on the trees above us. It was like dripping on us, and they're a huge part of this show. They're a huge, celebrities in their own right now. And you could see how they may not be particularly welcoming or just feel like above it now or anything. Like was prepared for that maybe being the case. Not that I'd seen that from anything, but you never really know. But they were so welcoming and so they've checked in with like all the extras that day and made sure everybody was warm. And yeah, I just remember being like, if I'm ever a part of that caliber and that for that length of time. Like that's who I want to be, like on a set always. And I think it just infects the rest of the cast and the rest of the crew, and they're always looking out for everybody. And yeah, I think it makes everybody treat everybody better. And yeah,
Did anything funny happen?
the frog, the frog, this damn frog. Uh, that was such a symptom of the difficulty of working on set as an actor sometimes for me. I because I read the book, I knew how funny that scene was. Like I knew that it was like hopping around, there's milk everywhere, I'm like screaming under my apron. Like it was, to me, that was always what I'd envisaged, and that was very much what was going to be in the script. That's always how I saw it. But then we got there, and like, the director was kind of like, okay, so Richard's just going to take the frog out and put the frog down. And I was like, oh, I'm like, oh, okay. I don't really know how I meant to get to where I get to without any of that was really, that was a tricky moment. But then I found out, afterwards, I was from the writing directing perspective, I'm really fascinated by like the writing side of Outlander and stuff. I would like love to write on Blood of My Blood at some point. That would be great. But I remember listening to I think it was Matt, I think, yeah, it was one of the execs talking about that scene and how that was the plan. But on the day, the frog that turned up was just like, I'm not moving, I'm not doing anything. That you're not getting that out of me. And that was obviously a whole discussion that happened without me. And then we
Oh,
decided, but like things like that, I think there's actors that maybe just don't want to know. But actually, something like that, I was like, I could have really have done with knowing that because I wasn't sure whether they were going to CGI the madness,
right.
or whether they were gonna, like, that was just wasn't happening. So I had to like pivot. Do you know what I mean? So like sometimes, quite often, if you're like a day player and you're coming in for these things and you're not quite sure your position. Because that was one of the first scenes I'd filmed, and I wasn't quite sure if I was like, hello, wait, why is this not happening? Am I meant to react like it is happening? Things like that are like are tricky. But it was nice to hear like, oh, it was the frog's fault. I like to know the reasons for stuff. Like maybe I'm just that kind of actor. I don't know.
What about Amy's relationship with Roger? Was she getting kind of hopeful?
I don't think that her and Roger were ever going to. I don't think she was getting hopeful. I think that you kind of don't exist in that land without a husband or a man. Unfortunately, I think that's like your place in the world, and then when that goes, it's the world is not set up to accommodate a
Right.
single mother or a widow at any point, really, but especially then. So I think she was just really grateful. I think she was probably too good of a Christian woman to ever actually. I don't think she knew of the rumors, for instance. I don't think that ever crossed her mind.
Are you like Amy in any ways?
I think I made her more like me than I am, like in terms of I think how she is in the books. I think I am not the meek and obedient type. So um I think she is. Like I think that's definitely her default in terms of being, quite pious and religious, and her being at a loss, I suppose, especially in season six. So it's quite nice over the course of season six and then into season eight to find that confidence again and find that kind of joy in her again. Because that's more where I sit for sure.
I think
Um,
she has a strength about her, though. I mean, because
yeah,
of
you have
the
to.
what
Yeah.
the circumstances she's found herself in.
Yeah.
And it's so tragic. I mean, it's almost like cruel that she's like, I never thought, I would find this or that he would look at me and then, it's
Yeah.
I actually reached out to Diana to be like, what, what?
Oh, when you read the book.
No, for this interview, just to
Oh,
say, I haven't heard back from her. She's super busy, but
mhm.
just what were you thinking? Why it's so tragic?
Yeah.
Where did this come from? And she often just visualizes things, and then she's like,
Mhm.
all right.
Yeah. I think it's an important, like you said, like I do think it sets a lot of things on trajectory, but also like um, Bree and Roger have just come back and it's such an easy thing to underestimate the fragility of life at this time. Like I think that's like its main plot point of
Mm.
really starkly reminding them of what they're about to encounter. Because obviously, the war's coming in and that's just pure life and death, which is just obviously, there was things threatened in their timeline, but they not like that, yeah, it's a very different set of circumstances.
That makes sense. It adds you saying that adds another layer to why Brie was in so much shock. Because
Mhm.
it's almost like, oh
Yeah,
crap, I
yeah,
forgot about this part. And
mhm.
we came back to protect our family, but
Yeah,
what have we done? Kind of
yeah,
thing.
because that could have been the kids, it could have been any, and I think she even says that, or
Yeah.
one of the characters says like it could have been any one of us.
Sorry, it's confusing because Lizzie and Izzy,
Yeah, yeah,
Rachel says that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Rachel says it.
What do you consider your most important work so far and why?
um I think I, in terms of an acting, like in terms of a role,
Yeah. Or actually in your life, whatever, it can be anything.
um, I, in terms of role, I think it would have to be playing a real life suffragette called Mary Lee, who was the first woman to be force fed in the fight, and that was for a BBC docudrama that won a BAFTA, which was very cool. That was incredible. And I played this real life suffragette, so I got to say her words like direct from her diary and things. And I had a scene where I was force fed, and it was just like unimaginable because it was such a small crew and it felt like I was in the costume, I was in this room. It was a really, I don't know, transformative moment to be able to step into someone's shoes, which is the reason that I'm even like having this conversation with you today and I'm able to live the way that I live as a woman. Like, yeah, that was incredible. And then since then, I've researched because I was playing that character, I researched suffragettes a lot and now have a pilot about Scottish suffragettes that I have written and love, and it's a comedy, trying to make force feeding funny. But everything I write is comedy, even though I keep getting force fed and fed to bears. Everything I write is comedy because I turn the trauma into something funny. That's like my MO. So yeah, like it's opened a huge door for me in terms of the things that my own understanding of where I sit in that fight. I do a lot of unpaid advocacy work for survivors within the industry, and it turns out there was a huge crossover between actresses and suffragettes at that time. And so I've written this kind of origin story that's about, the moment where you realize actually this problem is something, it's part of something greater, and actually I need to fight to change it. I didn't, I was disenfranchised, but I didn't know why. So yeah, that's a huge thing, and I'm really excited about that, and I want it to get made.
So are you kind of like, what do you call that? Shopping that around or
Yeah.
what? Yeah, right now. Okay, well, best of luck. I'll
Thanks.
keep tabs on you. Is there anything else? What else? What's next for Joanne
What's
Thompson?
next for Joanne? I've acting wise. I was just in a show here called Shetland that's on BritBox in the UK. If you haven't watched it, it's very good. I'm in season 10 of that. And I'm also in a feature film that's coming out in April that premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival called Glenrothin. That is directed by Brian Cox of Succession. We love Succession in this house. Um, and I play his mother. I play Brian Cox and Alan Cummings' mother. So riddle me that. I need to use night cream. But it's in the like there's flashbacks, but it's like the flashbacks also interspersed with real life. So I got to do scenes with them, and it was very, very cool. So I'm looking forward to. I've not seen it yet, so there's a cast and crew screening at the end of this month, and I'm excited to see that. And then writing and directing wise, I have a short film that I wrote and co-directed that is going to be on at the Glasgow Short Film Festival this week, which I'm very excited about. And it's in the Scottish competition, which is apparently extremely difficult to get into. So that feels like I'm like, oh, I can make a film. Because it's a comedy, and comedies are hard to screen at these things. So that feels
What's
really
it called?
It's called On the 12th Day of Findom.
Okay.
It's about a Christmas temp in a supermarket staff room who starts dipping her toe into the world of financial domination. It's
Mm.
saucy. It's saucy and funny. But yeah, it's set on the 12 days leading up to Christmas. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, and other than that, I've got like a few, I'm attached to direct a couple of shorts that I'm hopefully going to shoot end of this year. And then just writing stuff. I've got samples and things trying to place that and get producers and things.
You are busy. You are doing a
Very,
lot.
very. I'm trying. I'm trying.
That's fantastic. Well, I thank you so much for
Thank you so
taking
much.
time out to talk to me this morning and this afternoon for you. And I wish you all the best in all your projects. And I thought you did an amazing job as Amy McCallum. And I'm so glad you got to come back and get eaten by a bear and
Me
loved
too.
by your community.
Yeah, it was a lovely episode and it was a lovely season to be part of. Like, it's great to be part of the last one. And I am so excited to watch the rest of it because what's happened is all I know. So I don't know anything else. So I'll be watching it all with you guys and crying and everything at the same time. So yeah, thank you so much for talking to me.